So hi everyone, thanks for dialing into this session. We'll probably hear that beep a few more times as people join, but that's okay. I'm Tom. I'm the British Consul General here in Vancouver. I know some of you are from all over the place, so I hope it is nice wherever you are. Today we've got about an hour to talk to you about the Chevening program, which I hope many of you are thinking about applying to. And we're particularly fortunate that Jordan is joining us, who is an alumni of the Chevening program and also the co-chair of our Chevening alumni network. So thanks, Jordan, very much for being here and bringing that perspective of going through the program yourself. Really appreciate you taking the time.
That's my great pleasure, and I'm glad to see that we've got people here on the call, and hopefully more will be applying this year in the coming years. And I know that this is an open info session, but I'd be very happy to speak to my experience, which was truly life-changing for me.
Fantastic. Well, what I was thinking we might do is, as you can see, we've got a little presentation for you, which I might talk you through just to sort of cover the basics about Chevening. And then Jordan, I might ask you to maybe reflect a bit on your experience and maybe what surprised you about Chevening and studying in the UK and your advice to applicants.
Absolutely.
Then maybe we'll do some Q&A, but please also, folks, do feel free to interrupt either of us as we go. Make this a conversation. We have the chat function, which is a really good way of asking a question if you want to do that without too much of the flow, or you can raise your hand and I'll spot you and bring you in, however you'd like to do it. I should also say we're recording this session so that we can use it for people who couldn't make today but still are interested in finding out information about the scholarship. So I hope that's okay for everyone. If you want to unmute or put your video on, then you'll have to agree to the recording. But no worries if you'd rather just listen. That's totally fine as well. So all good. Shall I get going, or does anyone want to stop me at this point? Great. Fab. Well, let's get going. So the reason you're here, hopefully, is because you've heard about this very exciting program called the Chevening Scholarship Program. So Chevening is the UK government's kind of global scholarship program. It's targeted at master's level, which is a 1-year graduate degree in the UK. And it operates all over the world with the main aim of equipping future leaders with the skills, the experience, the networks that they need in order to meet their potential in their home country. So in this case, I'm obviously talking from Canada. We're talking about enabling a generation of Canadians to really build that connection with the UK and use it to thrive back in Canada at the end of the program. Next slide, please, Sarah, if you could. Most of the questions that I get about Chevening are about who's eligible, and the answer is thankfully very broad. So because it's a global program, even if you're currently in Canada, but you might not be a Canadian, or you might only be in Canada temporarily, you are almost certainly still eligible for it from your other country, your home country. The main criteria are that you should have an undergraduate degree by the time that you would start your graduate studies. So that means in practice being at least in the final year of your undergraduate degree right now, if you wanted to start next year. And that you should have 2 years of work experience. That's designed so that you can be at a stage of your life where you can really articulate what potential you have and how you're going to make a difference in your chosen field. Which is the last thing, which is the most important bit about eligibility. So the whole purpose of these scholarships is to really find people who are going to be future leaders in their field and to equip them to do that. So the main thing we focus people with about how they're going to change the world, and it can be in any field that you want. So the Chevening program has supported doctors, it's supported theatre directors, it's supported politicians, it's supported scientists, it's supported everyone in between. The main thing we want to see is that passion and that drive and that potential to make a really positive difference. I spotted a hand up there. Amy, do come in.
Yeah, hi. I just have a little bit of a more, I suppose, tactical question about the work experience eligibility criteria. Um, does the 2 years need to be of like full-time uninterrupted work experience, or can it be cumulative or part-time work experience?
Great question. I get that question from time to time as well. The answer is it can be cumulative and it can be part-time. The idea is it should add up to about that much experience. It can also be it's work experience reasonably broadly defined. So, you know, if your experience is as a volunteer, then you know that can count towards it too. It's a benchmark basically for how much life experience we expect people to have beyond their undergraduate degree. Does that help, Amy?
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
No worries. Cool. I'll get back to the what's on the slide. So I think what really marks the Chevening Scholarship out is that it is a fully funded program. So the idea is that you as an individual shouldn't really need to have recourse to your personal funds in order to take advantage of it. So it covers your tuition fee, it covers your travel, it covers a living allowance, and so on. The only exception, which is noted here, is if you're thinking about an MBA program, where there is a requirement to sort of top up the tuition fees because they're much more expensive. But we have also supported people from Canada to go through MBA programs, so that's certainly not off the table if that's what you're looking at. Now, I think what I hope Jordan will talk about a little bit, depending on your experience, Jordan. But I think what makes Chevening really special is the community that you're joining. And I say this to you as applicants because I think it's something really important to reflect about and to put into your applications, because it isn't just that you're going to go to one of the best universities in the world to study a graduate degree, fully funded, which is great. It's also that you're joining this cohort. So it's 1,500 people a year who are Chevening scholars. They are future leaders across every field from almost every country in the world. And there are 55,000 Chevening scholars who have already been through the program, and many of them are in fantastic places. And we really invest in that network, and in making sure that your experience in the UK, gives you that network and allows you to use it in order to fulfill your potential long after you have finished your studies. So bear that in mind. You're joining a very impressive and exclusive club. In fact, here you go. A bit more about the Chevening alumni community, which Jordan is a proud representative of. So thank you again. We have about 300 alumni in Canada. There's all sorts of impressive names across our alumni list. I think there's 20 Chevening alumni who are either heads of state or heads of government. So the program must be doing something right in terms of picking future leaders. But also in Canada, we have some very impressive alumni, Jordan included, but also Melanie Joly, who's the foreign minister, and also Vice Admiral Topshee, who's the commander of the Royal Canadian Navy, as well as Bernard, who's a Minister of Education in Quebec, and many others. These are just the ones who have that public profile. Lots of others are leading their fields, across Canada and making a real difference in their own way. So in Canada, we have an allocation of places for the Chevening Scholarship. And this is kind of three parts. And I mention this because it's relevant to you and how you shape your application. So we have a core allocation of scholarships, which are, like I say, completely open. Any institution, any course, just show us you're going to change the world. We also have two partnerships in place where we've partnered with, well, in this case, ATCO and a British entrepreneur called David Briggs, in order to increase the allocation of teaching scholarships we can offer. And ATCO have decided they particularly want to support scholarships which for people who are going to make a change in these areas. So the areas they've picked are the energy transition and sustainability, economic reconciliation and Indigenous relations, and affordable housing and community spaces. So that's the ATCO partnership, and they're going to support a couple of scholars in those fields this year. And then there's the Chevening Briggs Scholarship, where David Briggs is particularly focused on extending this Chevening opportunity to people of Indigenous background. So if you identify as Indigenous, then this is a fantastic opportunity for you. And I'm very happy to say a bit more about either of these partnerships. The so what for you is that if any of that applies to you, then do make sure you bring it out in your applications, because it will increase your chances of success. If neither of those things apply to you, that's okay. We also have a core allocation of Chevening scholarships, so don't feel like that's the only field that you should be considering. Be you, and talk to us about who you want to be. Application timelines. So applications are open. They're open for another, two and a bit weeks. 7th of November is when they close. What's not noted on this timeline is the application timeline for the courses themselves. So getting a Chevening scholarship has two parts. One is this sort of scholarship application process. The other is being accepted onto a master's course in the UK. And the deadline for those applications, which are directly to the universities, are December. So you don't need to have applied to universities by the time you apply for Chevening, but you do need to have an idea about the course you're planning to apply to, or the courses rather. And then over the next few months, the universities and the Chevening program in parallel will consider applications and make a decision in time for the next academic year. It's probably, I'm sure we'll come back to that in questions, but I'll probably leave that one there. Move this on, Sarah. That'd be great. Or not. No worries. I think what we're looking at now is just a bit of a summary of the program. There we go. Exactly that. I knew that was coming. Can you tell? So that's the kind of the overall shape of it. I guess the key point to really leave you with is, this is a program which is designed to help you reach your potential as a change maker in your chosen field. So what we're really looking for is that passion, that drive, and that that hunger for change that will make you that will really make you a key part of this Chevening community. I'll probably stop there. I'd really like to hear from Jordan about your experience, maybe what surprised you about Chevening, and any tips you have for folks who are thinking about applying this year.
Sure thing. Very happy to, and thank you, Thomas, for the presentation. And first off, I'd like to tell everyone, so I was a Chevening scholar in 2016, 2017, and I did a master's degree at the University of Oxford in public policy, so a bit to my background, and truly to this day remains one of the most enriching and life-changing experiences that I've lived. Some of my best friends I met there. The knowledge that I learned in the UK and in my studies, I was readily able to bring it back and use it in my work going forward. In my case, public policy and the functioning of government, and then politics. But it applies to anyone who gets to experience the British educational system. Is truly, I think, sets the bar high, sets the gold standard for other countries, and I certainly not only learned a lot but had a great time going through it. So just a bit to Chevening itself. So Chevening is really a wonderful opportunity because not only is it helpful for financial reasons, because we know that it's not cheap to go and have this excellent education, but beyond that, because oftentimes scholarships will kind of solely focus on the financials, Chevening really makes a big effort to have you join a community, and I think the Consul General was speaking eloquently to the fact that we have a large cohort of scholars that join at the same time. And so people are joining a variety of universities across the British Isles. And so you get to, anywhere you may go, there will be a Chevener at a university that you'll be visiting. And that's for sure. Whether in Scotland, in Northern Ireland, in Wales, in England. And so you always have friends, by virtue of your connection to Chevening. And not only is it when you get to visit them, but also the program itself assembles everyone twice a year down in London, typically, for a big Chevening conference. So I recall when I started in the first month of my time in the UK, we had this big get together, this big meeting, and the guest speaker at the meeting at the time was Foreign Minister of the UK, Mr. Boris Johnson, who would then go on to become Prime Minister of the UK. And he sure gave a rousing speech and spoke about, Britain in the world and global Britain, and just being in this room with 1,000 other students from all around the world interested in being this bridge between their home countries and the UK was quite remarkable. And then, of course, you meet people with whom you're going to keep in touch throughout not only the rest of the year, but then hopefully throughout the rest of your life. And that's where I'll maybe do a little plug here for the Chevening Alumni Association, which I have the privilege of co-running with a friend of mine. We've launched a number of years ago. Our predecessors put together this loose organization where we want to coalesce all the Chevening alumni, and we're very lucky to partner with the British High Commission on this, and we really have had a lot of support from the High Commission in keeping these ties alive. And when you become a Chevener, you also become part of the Chevening Alumni Association, and we aim to host events, conferences, get-togethers, sometimes seminars and talks. That's the idea. But at a base level, just an opportunity to gather around as Cheveners and keep this community alive and help each other out, which is the goal of the association, but I know also an objective of the British High Commission and all the teams that work on the British diplomatic staff. So I can't say enough about my time in the UK. Made fantastic friends. I traveled a lot and enjoy being in the UK. It's such a varied country. There's so much to see. I myself, as a French Canadian, you go there and you realize just how much we find in common, and a lot of our food, our music, our architecture, so much of it is inspired from Britain, and so there was a lot for me to feel at home there. But everyone will find something to like in the UK, whatever your field of studies. And that's maybe another advantage of Chevening, is that it gives you the opportunity to apply whatever your interests and backgrounds, so as long as you're passionate about something and that you want to become a sort of informal ambassador of these ties between Canada and the United Kingdom, which really is the objective of the program, is for you to go to the UK to learn the best practices and then to bring it back to your home country and to serve as this unofficial ambassador. And hopefully you then get active in the alumni association and you continue serving that role going forward. And I'll be very much looking forward to seeing you there. So happy to answer any questions. That gives you a little summary of my time there, but there's a lot to it, and I'm looking forward to talking more about it.
Thanks so much, Jordan. Really well put, and a great plug for the alumni group. I think it's a really important part of how that network lives on, far beyond the year of study. So it's really great work that you're doing, and hopefully some of the people on the line will be part of it someday. We've said plenty. You're here because you wanted to find out more. So please do let us know what questions you might have about the program, about the process. Very happy to take them either through the chat, or if you want to raise your hand, I'd happily hand you the mic. So I'll leave an awkward pause here. If not, I'll ask Jordan a couple of questions myself about your experience, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
All right, that's long enough an awkward pause. Do gather your thoughts about what questions you might want to ask, and looking forward to hearing from you in a minute. Jordan, I wonder, you mentioned a bit about finding lots that was familiar and that you liked when you went to the UK. What was the thing that most surprised you about studying in Britain?
I mean, there's many things, of course, but one of the things that I wouldn't say exactly surprised me, but something that I was, or maybe I should say, happily surprised, was just the British love of traditions, and which is something that I really connect with, and something that I love of the UK. That every village has its own tradition, or its own market day or festival that they celebrate, and there's a lot of respect for these old yeah, coming togethers and moments to mark important events, which I quite like, and it also translates also into the way that some everyday life things like the British pubs are organized, and that was a big something that I quite loved, was how every British pub or restaurant has a distinct identity. Not all, of course, but much more so than we have in North America, where we're more used to having chains. Whereas in the UK, it's like the little pub of this neighborhood, has its own history and its own architecture, and you could learn so much just by stepping in. And of course, it goes without saying that people were very warm and friendly when you told them that you were Canadian, and when I told them that I was from Quebec, they were always very interested and curious to hear and hear about our shared history. So that was very, I think, enriching for me, is that you're away from home, but you in many ways feel at home. So I wouldn't be worried at all, because it is a daunting task and project to go and live abroad on another continent. But in this case, so much ties us and binds us together that it really was fairly seamless. And even should I add, for anybody that may be wondering on the call, even if English isn't your first language, and many Cheveners for whom this was the case, you very much have all the opportunities, like your colleagues, to learn and feel welcome and take away a lot from British culture and your courses. So don't feel daunted by that. On the contrary, I think it's a very positive ambition and project, and you'll do perfectly well.
That's absolutely right. You definitely will, and particularly at the master's level, actually, the UK draws in students from all around the world, from all sorts of backgrounds, and certainly I've seen lots of very diverse classes of students taking those courses, all bringing their own perspective. So that's very much welcome. I think some people sent in questions ahead of the session, so I might. Oh, Amy, go for it.
Hi, yeah, thank you so much for the presentation. My question is very, very broad. I was just wondering if you could share any application tips. And I'd also be very curious to know what mistakes applicants make and what we should avoid.
Great question. Well, Jordan, I might turn to you after giving mine, because you've actually succeeded through this process. So I've been assessing Chevening applications for the last 5 years or so. And I think what's really good from an assessor's point of view is every application is unique, because it really does focus on who you are as a person and your leadership potential in your field. I think that the mistakes that I see most commonly are perhaps kind of misunderstandings about what Chevening is and what it offers. I see applications that don't pay enough attention to this community and this network that you're going to be a part of. So it's really worth thinking through how that network is going to help you reach your potential, and explaining that, as well as what you will contribute to that network and to others who are taking the program. It's very much about joining a community. So I'd emphasize that aspect when you're thinking about writing your application. Trying to think if there's anything else about tips for applicants and things to avoid. I think the main thing is just let who you are shine through. So, don't try and write the perfect application. I think write the application that is true to you, because that's how you'll allow your potential to really shine through and allow the assessors to see that. So that's probably my top tip. Jordan, what would you add to that?
The thing, well, maybe off the bat, and you spoke to the fact of understanding what Chevening is and what Chevening represents. Maybe a good idea as to why you want to go to the UK. Why specifically the UK? Why not the United States or any other country where you would potentially have the opportunity to go study abroad? So I think there's an important thing to mention there, that why is the UK particularly interesting to you or appealing to you? And then drilling it down, also, why is it that your courses of interest, the ones that you're selecting and the universities, are particularly interesting to you? What is it that you want to learn there, and how can it be a stepping stone for you to achieve something going forward? And having a bit of an idea of what you'd like to do beyond the program is always quite good, because it shows that you're going there to really seize the opportunities that are given to you, and that you're really going to lift yourself up with this. But of course, we spoke about the community aspect. I think that's really an important one, showing that you still want to be a contributor to these ties between Canada and the UK in whatever way. It doesn't have to be, say, in my line of work, which was policy and politics, which may seem a bit more clear cut into the ways that you can contribute to that bilateral relations. But even when it comes to science, the fact that you could sit on panels and collaborate with researchers from the UK, or be a vector of information for technology from the UK here in Canada, and vice versa. There's so many angles, or art for that matter. A colleague, Chevening, who was one of the co-founders of our association, he studied art. He studied theater in London, and he became and is a great actor. And so he really contributes to making Canada shine abroad, but also making the UK shine abroad, because he was educated there. And so there's so many ways to do that and to make it personal to you. So those are kind of the quick tips off the top of my head. Of course, when it comes to very very much boots on the ground basics of having an essay that flows, that's been reviewed a couple of times because you want to put your best foot forward, but more to being able to demonstrate your personality, and what is it that you want to do with Chevening.
Those are excellent bits of advice, Jordan. Very much so. So thank you for that. And thanks for the question, Amy. We had a question in before the session that asked about the differences between doing a master's program in the UK and studying at graduate level in Canada in terms of grading, the style of learning, that kind of thing. Which, to be honest, I'm not best equipped to answer, because I haven't done graduate study in Canada or been in contact with that system. But again, Jordan, I wonder if I could lean on you to maybe say a little bit about how the style is different and how the sort of learning offer is different from what you might find at home in Canada.
Sure thing. We're lucky in Canada in that we take a lot of our inspiration in terms of the structure from the UK and from France. So it's easier for us in many ways, because a lot of our systems are inspired from these two countries. So it's we kind of have a foot in the door already. But there is one sort of glaring difference just when it comes to courses per se, and more specifically grading. Do not be hit hard in the face when you get your first grades from a British university, because they have different grading metrics whereby, correct me if I'm wrong, Thomas, but having a 70 in a course is quite a good, a good outcome. It's like you've done very, very well for yourself. And whereas here in Canada, you'd say, probably I would have, I would have liked to get a better score if putting all your energy and effort into it. So really in the UK, the range is kind of like between 50 and 70, or maybe you could go a bit above 70, but that gives you an idea. So it translates, internationally, so it has no effect on how people view your degree, but it's just different grading metrics. Much like in France, I know their system is on 20 points. So don't feel beaten down if you don't quite get the grades that you were expecting. It's a totally normal thing in the UK. As long as you put in hard work and you're interested in what you're doing, you'll do perfectly fine. But when it comes to content, I'd say fairly similar to what you get in a Canadian university, but maybe with the added bonus that you truly have some of the best professors from all around the world that are teaching in the UK. And the institutions themselves, this is something that's fairly different for obvious reasons, but just how rooted these are in history and again in tradition, but you sit in the same chairs, or you walk the same cobblestones as the great thinkers of our time, or eras bygone. So it truly has something inspiring to be there and to think, wow, there's so much that has happened in this location, and I'm part of this this heritage. So that's a nice plus. It really gives you a feeling that you're part of something bigger than yourself.
Absolutely, and that's certainly the feeling that I got from studying in the UK. That feeling of being connected to something much bigger. I think probably to build on what you say, Jordan, the other thing to look at as you're applying is that every institution in the UK is different in some way. So if the cobblestones of history are what appeal to you, then obviously Oxford is a fantastic choice, and there's many others that are in that category but have their own different history. There's also several universities in London itself, which offer you a very different student experience, where you're much more, in and among the city, with the whole history around that, and then practically every medium or large city in the UK has its own university, which will have at least one, often many programs which are world leading. So the University of Sussex, for instance, is the world's foremost university for the study of development aid. There's programs up north in places like Durham, Birmingham and Manchester, which again are world leading in different fields like engineering. So it's really worth investing the time in getting to know some of these institutions and reflecting that research into your application, because again, as Jordan was saying, it's a really good way of showing why it is that you want to go to the UK, because you've really invested that time in understanding the institutions you're applying to. But yeah, brilliant. Thank you, John. Appreciate that.
Pleasure.
The other question I've got, which is more of a technical one, and so it might be worth talking about here, which is some people have got dual nationality, who's therefore might be eligible in more than one place. Some people are only in Canada temporarily. Some people might want to apply to the scholarships partnerships that I mentioned, and are worried about having to do multiple applications. The good news is you only have to do one application. So whether you're Canadian, whether you're from another country, but in Canada at the moment, all you have to do is fill in your information It's one global kind of portal for the Chevening scholarship, and the system will send that to the right place. So if you want to apply on the basis of being from another country, then you just have to tick that box and then make sure you write your application in terms of how you're going to change the world from that country, because that is one requirement you have with Chevening, is after you've finished your degree, you were expected to go back to your home country for a period of time in order to contribute what you've learned and to really fulfill that potential that you've been demonstrating, and as Jordan says, be that kind of living bridge between the UK and that country. So so for most of you, I imagine that's Canada, but it may not be, and that's great too. The program runs globally.